never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi folks, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another fantastic day. And today is going to be cool because it's going to be a very practical day. We're going to actually play because I've got Craig Meriwether with me. Craig is a man who has made it his mission to go below the ego, to go into the area where our core beliefs are messing us up without us even knowing. There's so many ways that our brain has laid down beliefs that are really BS, belief systems that often don't actually help us so much. And Craig is a man who can help us with the resulting anxiety. And we're going to play today. We're going to try different things out and see how they work on me. And in turn, you guys gonna get a full exposure of a number of techniques that maybe might just be the solution and the way forward for you out of the darkness and out of the chaos that often reigns in our head and in our lives. Craig, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate that introduction. I might print that out and put it on my wall next to my bed so I can read it every morning. Inspire me.
Oh, Craig, it's so beautiful. Here you are, a man who has accumulated a wealth of knowledge, of skills, and you're out there to make this world a better place. What nicer for me in this beautiful New Zealand morning here to actually connect with a like-minded, a friend who I've never met, and actually enjoy this connection, enjoy the enthusiasm, focus on all the power that we have to change our lives. Because when we're in the darkness, we don't know, isn't it?
Yeah. I like the way you just said that, because while a lot of when people get introduced and they read their biographies, it makes it out to be, yes, we're doing all this to as career or business, or I've written a book or something. But really, I think a lot of us, especially in my case, and maybe you can relate to this, but it's like get into this work because of our own pain and our own hurt that we've gone through, our own darkness we're moving through. And to the point where we do so much work on ourselves, we're like, man, I have all these tools and these techniques to help other people. With some training and some more, going to school and things, I could start helping people out of their pain as well, because I understand how dark it can get. And so the idea of that, I have some knowledge and some information and some tools and techniques, but really comes from a place of wanting to dig myself out of the hurt and pain, and just the years of struggling, of trying to find that way out. And there are so many different methodologies, and we can discuss different processes and techniques. I know what I love about your podcast is kind of more long form, and so there's time to really go in depth in different directions and go off on tangents and stuff, and it's always fun to do that. But I think a lot of the work and a lot of the other guests that you've had on your show, whether it's struggling with addiction or dealing with depression or dealing with chronic anxiety or just the struggles of life, a lot of what we learn and that knowledge that you were just talking about doesn't come from me being a superior intellect, of which I am really not, ask my wife. And but it comes from just wanting to fix my own pain, and realizing at the end of the day, wow, I've learned some tools and some techniques that really, really help. And why not share them? Make the world maybe a little bit of a better place.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
But if you were to go back to your teenage years, or even earlier to your forming years, sort of if you can remember them, were you seeing role models where good coping mechanisms were displayed to you? My educated guess is no, because otherwise, if we had these great role models when we were younger,
Yeah.
we wouldn't end up experimenting with all the kind of escapisms, the isms like well, actually, workaholic, alcoholic, whatever you
Yeah.
become in order to flee your pain. Um,
Yeah.
how did you grow up?
I became a religionaholic, I guess you'd call it. I was born into the Episcopal Church. Grew up in Southern California, specifically San Diego, and there was a Episcopal church about 3, 4 blocks away from our house, and so that's the church we went to. If it was Methodist or something else, we probably would have been Methodist or Lutheran or something, but it was an Episcopal church. And I actually really like the Episcopal church. It's not as hardcore as Catholicism,
Hmm.
but does have the robes and the candles and the ritual aspect of it, that and communion and those ritual aspects that are for me something that helped me get into that space. Starting at 6th grade, my parents sent me to a private school run by Baptists. So basically, Monday through Friday, I was at a Baptist school. On the weekends, I do church stuff. Of course, on Sundays, we'd go to church. And so much so, the point of being a teenager, again, still at Baptist school, still going to Catholic church, acolyte, altar boy, and being heavily a part of the youth group at Episcopal Church, I really wanted to become a priest. I thought that was an extraordinary uh, opportunity for me, and not necessarily to help other people. I thought being a priest would help me be closer to that spiritualism I was looking for, closer to God, so to speak, trained to be closer to God. Um, that kind of fell out of the system because I realized, oh yeah, but you really have to be in charge of a church and other people, and that didn't interest me so much. But I was even part of a charismatic movement. And so in terms of finding that way out of the darkness, in terms of uh, being a child and a teenager, all I knew was church and religion and spirituality, and coming from kind of two different uh, uh, points
Hmm.
of Baptist and Episcopal, and they didn't really fit together. Two different systems, and that didn't even really care for the other's philosophy on how to um, deal with Christianity.
Hmm.
And once that kind of the teenager years were over, um, my friends move away from, San Diego, going off to college and other places, and my friend group disappeared from high school and from church, and I felt very lost. And uh, church didn't hold much for me, but I still was craving that desire for those deeper, uh, deeper ways of looking into yourself.
Hmm.
And ended up moving to Santa Cruz in 1990, Santa Cruz, California, about 90 minutes south of San Francisco on Monterey Bay, and opened my eyes to a uh, whole new world of different cultures, which brings with it different music and different dance and different food and different spirituality, or ways of finding those inner places of peace and harmony. And so I kind of delved into all these different kind of cultures and things. And so in terms of trying to find ways of dealing with, and I struggled with a lot of depression and anxiety as a teenager and in my 20s. The way I looked for it, because alcohol, drugs was not really a part of the picture because of my upbringing, because of the church, because of the Baptist school. I looked for it in spirituality, and whether it was Zen walking meditation or Sufi zikr ceremonies or sweat lodge, trying everything. And as you can probably gather from my name, Craig Meriwether, there's nothing more United Kingdom than that. My heritage is pretty much, and no joke, is something like 95% United Kingdom, all over Ireland and Scotland and England, maybe a little bit of French and German thrown in. And so these other aspects of culture, whether from South America or Especially I was very interested in North African uh, music and culture, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, and even into to Persia and all these different cultures attracted me, but I also didn't find that I fit. And so the longing kind of continued because while I felt there's only a certain rung on the ladder you could climb in terms of Sufism. I don't know Arabic. I don't know French. I couldn't really. There's only a certain point you could get to, and so even that struggle continued a bit into the 90s and early 2000s. And it was really with the birth of my son in 2000 that I really became anchored in this needs to get fixed. The depression, the anxiety, the I don't know what the hole in the soul, if you will, the darkness, whatever. And not that things were bad. It was just it's a hole, a loneliness, and a depression around all things.
It's
And
very
I,
hard, Craig, when I sort
yeah,
of hear you, you're downplaying the darkness. And I think isn't that a typical response when you live in a burning house, then it's all normal for you, and you say, "Oh yeah, the
yeah,
walls are on fire. Oh, it's nice and warm." Yeah, okay, that's yeah, yeah. When we're in the midst of the
I,
darkness, we often don't acknowledge it, and it's only with hindsight, when we're back in the light, that we see how dark we were in the darkness.
yeah. And I understand what you're saying. It's also, especially with the work we do, you meet people who have really gone through some struggles
Mm.
and some trauma and I don't know, you shouldn't ever compare your life with somebody else's. But
True.
it's also, I'm a white male in America. It's not that bad. And I know we can have that whole 3 hour conversation, but it was also and then working with people who are dealing with the trauma of serious physical abuse or sexual abuse
Mm.
and not having experienced that. It's like, again, not to compare,
Mm.
you know, my pain hurt and I wanted to take care of it and deal with it. But uh like I was explaining before, I was trying to soothe myself with
Mm.
religion and spirituality because that's all I knew.
Mm.
My mom, being an alcoholic, uh, didn't want to go down that path. It kind of seems that weird thing of you're either it's abhorrent to you, alcohol and drugs, or it's like, well, it worked for my mom and dad, so maybe I'll start drinking too, maybe because that's you're mirroring what you saw in the home as a way to self-soothe. I went the way of like, I don't want anything to do with it. So what else is there? The only thing I know is religion and spirituality, and so as I got into my 30s, uh, and with the birth of my son, it was really okay. This really needs to be a focus and dealing with this. And what could I do? And really started research because I didn't want to mirror that in the home. I
Mm.
didn't want my son seeing it. And if my son, for whatever reason, had issues, how can I help him? What could I do to help him
Mm.
that wasn't offered to me?
Mm.
You were saying at the very beginning about um, maybe people you're looking up to or role models and things like that. Well, could I be a role model for my son? And yeah, when things get dark, here's some things you can do,
Beautiful.
and what are those ways? No.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that because often enough we make all the mistakes and are not our very best versions of ourselves when our children are young because we
Yeah.
haven't yet had the wake-up calls of
Yeah.
realizing that maybe we are on the wrong path. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so pleased for you to
Yeah.
see that that your transformation has started early enough so that you positively can influence your children. Many
Yeah.
of us have not had this opportunity, and I have yet to meet a father or a mother who are truly saying, yes, I was always there for my children. There is always the regret. There's always the thought, oh, I could have done better. I was distracted. I was not there because I was working all the time, etc. So I think,
Yeah.
the would have, should have, could have, yeah, that's our nature. But ultimately, you in your transformation started uncovering ways forward that
Mm.
were helping you with anxiety,
Yeah.
with the stress, with the core beliefs that were running through your head. And my educated guess is that anxiety was quite a bit there in the forefront. Is that fair to say?
Mm. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. It definitely came as a package experience. Uh, Not, there's just a little bit of fear around everything. Meeting new people, going to new places,
Yeah,
getting that new job,
yeah,
uh, you know, starting that business, and talking myself out of a lot of things. It's like, hey, that group meets on Thursday evenings, and you're excited about it, and there's like, oh, maybe finding a way to kind of self-sabotage yourself and not go or not start that business because what if it doesn't work out? Or and it just
yeah,
makes life not so exciting, not so much fun, and all these opportunities that can make your life better.
yeah.
You're self-soothing by hiding in your room with maybe watching a movie or listening to music, and it makes you feel better. But in and of itself, the fear is keeping you, the anxiety, the depression is keeping you from moving out in the world and living your best life. Yeah.
And that is so common, isn't it? The imposter
Yeah.
syndrome, our
Yeah.
fear of, oh my God, what will other people think of me?
Mhm.
What if? And your brain comes up. If you say, well, if let's rephrase that. Often enough, we ask some really stupid questions. Why me? Or if that goes wrong, so your brain automatically will fill that void. Well, if
Mhm.
things go wrong, it will automatically come up with 20, 30, 40 things that say, oh, yeah, that's not good. So we often end up catastrophizing and we end up
Yeah.
focusing on completely the wrong questions and listen to the wrong answers. What
Yeah.
can we as
Yeah.
humans, however, do to actually to stop this
Oh, okay.
vicious cycle?
Um, the main idea around when you're finding yourself in those loops, whether it's depression or anxiety or imposter syndrome or catastrophizing, break your state. You have to break state. Tony Robbins is big on talking about that. If anybody listening knows about him, of course, he's been out there for 40 years, but his big thing, you've got to break state. A big way of doing that is moving your body.
Hmm.
You could just sit there, and I won't get up and get out of a frame, but there's a qigong, which is basically tai chi. There's a whole discussion there, but just shaking your body,
Ah,
moving up and down and shaking your body. You don't have to go for a run. You don't have to do 30 jumping jack push up. But what if you just started shaking your arms, shaking your shoulders, shaking up and down, up on your ankles, and start moving your body, and maybe even doing some dance movements if you feel like, if you're alone and feel like being a little ridiculous or silly. But if you can move your body, that is a great way to break state. But what I'd like to show everybody, if this is a good time to do it, is a really cool exercise that takes about 5 minutes. And it not only resets your nervous system, but it'll literally change your brain chemistry. It'll turn off that adrenaline, that cortisol, and it'll
okay.
start creating oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. It's not hard to do. And what's fascinating about all this work, is that you've been given everything you need to regulate your own system. It's just you got to do it. And there's a certain relentlessness to this, especially around when you're talking about addiction. There's a relentlessness to just every day, one step in front of the other. And a good example is this. Look, the Dalai Lama still meditates every day. The man's 89 years old, and he talks about, in his books, he talks about the anger, the sorrow, and the despair. The Chinese government is still bulldozing down monasteries in Tibet. still arresting his monks and torturing his monks, let alone what's going on with the rest of the world. And as a spiritual leader, he has to deal with that. And there's anger around that. I mean, he was exiled out of Tibet in what, 1958, 1957, something like that. And so there's anger, there's sorrow, the despair around that. Of course, he's a human being and he's going to feel that. And it would be strange if he didn't feel that. But he doesn't want that to be who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day he practices loving kindness and compassion. The man's 89 years old. And yet he still, if anybody was to have it down by now, you'd think it'd be that guy. He's not married. He has no kids. He has a staff of people to meet his every beck and call and whim and need. And yet he still spends probably a couple hours every afternoon meditating and doing the work. 89 years old. So and look at any master of anything, Yo-Yo Ma, considered one of the great cello players of our time. Man's 67 years old and he still practices 3 to 4 hours every day. Man's been playing since he was 4 years old. If anybody was to phone it in and just play, Royal Albert Hall or Carnegie Hall playing Mozart night after night and just phoning it in, it'd be that guy. But he still practices every day. He wants to master the cello. He wants to master this music. Look at anybody. Look at Tony Robbins. I mentioned him a couple of minutes ago. If you watch that documentary about him, I Am Not Your Guru, which I believe is on Netflix, it shows him during one of those week-long events of his. And it shows him in his morning. He's doing the cold plunge. He's doing the jumping on the low trampoline for his adrenal glands, but he's also doing the meditation work. This guy's been doing it since 1980. For 40 some years, he's been doing this work. He's a master at it. He's doing arenas of 10,000 people, motivating, inspiring 10,000 people in an arena, and he's still doing the work. You even see him putting himself in state before he walks out onto stage. And so it comes down to there's a certain relentlessness to this work. And if you want that joy, you want that happiness, you want that confidence, you can have it. You're allowed to have it, but there comes work with it. Ask the Dalai Lama. There comes work with doing it because there will be challenges in life. You will get that 2x4 to the head.
Uh-huh.
The Dalai Lama still gets news from Tibet about what's going on there, and it's upsetting news. He's a human being. He's going to respond in a natural way, which may be grief or loss or depression or anger or sorrow, despair. And that's a natural way of moving with that kind of news. But he doesn't want to be like that forever. That he doesn't want that to be his essence. So every day he practices loving kindness and compassion. So I want to show you an exercise you can do in 5 minutes. You can do it for half an hour if you like, but a really quick exercise to reset your nervous system is this exercise I call the 5-minute reboot exercise. Now, of course, if you're driving your car, if you're listening to this while driving your car, please maybe come back to this, kind of listen through it, or maybe fast forward real quick and then come back to do this exercise because it's a really great exercise. If you're watching, supervising the kids around the pool, whatever, anything that requires your focus and concentration, do that, come back to this. But if you're able to close your eyes and be in a relaxed space, let's do this exercise together. But I'm going to quickly walk through it and then we'll do it together. And this exercise starts with the breath. And the breath is the great regulator of your nervous system. And we could do a whole 3 hours just on the breath. Breath is so important, not just to, martial arts or Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga. I mean, there's a whole subsection of yoga, pranayama, just on the breath. The breath is what centers you, but it's those belly breaths, those big abdominal breaths, and that will flatten out your diaphragm so you can get air way into the bottom of your lungs. If you have the ability right now to feel where your rib cage is, it's about 2 inches from your hip bones or so. Your lungs are huge, but when we're stressed, when we're anxious, when we're afraid, we tend to just breathe into the top part of our lungs because this rib cage is here for your heart, your lungs, to protect those. The only thing protecting the vital organs of your abdomen are the muscles, so your muscles will clench. You can't get air into the bottom of your lungs if you're holding in your stomach. You can't get those big belly breaths. So you end up just breathing into the top of your lungs. Now, if you've ever seen a picture of a lung in a biology book or a drawing or something, It sort of kind of looks like a pear cut from top to bottom. So it's narrow on the top, it's wider on the bottom. So what is happening is the blood's flowing around your body. Real quick, high school biology class reminder. Blood is flowing around your bodies, picking up the carbon dioxide, the gases, the toxins, the trash, and the garbage, filtering through your lungs. You exhale all that out, all the carbon dioxide and the gases, the toxins. Breathe in the oxygen into your lungs. It gets into your bloodstream, and now the oxygen is being delivered to the cells, the muscles, the tissues, while it's picking up the carbon dioxide. It just goes around and around and around like this. So in the top part of your lungs, about the top third of your lungs, about a half a cup, and this is American measurements, a half a cup of blood is moving through the top of your lungs every minute. Cleansing and cleaning at half a cup of blood, oxygenating at half a cup of blood. The bottom of your lungs, 1 liter of blood but only if you're breathing deeply. And so just as a visual, for those of you on the video, for you people just listen to audio, I have to imagine this, but here's a Gatorade bottle. Gatorade bottle is a liter. So this is a liter. This is what you are not oxygenating every minute if you're not breathing deeply. 60 of these an hour. And 20%, that's about 20%, I'm guessing. 20% of this goes directly to your brain. So this is half a cup. So for you listeners, I'm holding up a Gatorade ball with pretty much just about 1/32 of liquid in it. So this alone, as you can see, will help transform your physiology by moving all that oxygen into your blood supply, 20% going to your brain for rational, calm thinking. The other issue is that we have this vagus nerve, and this has been very trendy over the last decade or so to talk about the vagus nerve. But we have these nerves that come out of the back of our head, 12 of them. This is that thing when you reach out and touch the hot pot, a signal goes up a nerve to your brain, says, hey, you're touching a hot pot, let it go. It goes back down to your hand and you let go of the hot pot, all within a millionth of a second. We have 12 of these. The 10th cranial nerve is the vagus nerve. Vagus is Latin for wanderer because it attaches to your eyes, to your ears, to the muscles of your jaw, goes past your vocal cords, attaches to your heart, to your lungs, and to your gut. The vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So the two parts that apply to what we're talking about here, the sympathetic, stress response, fight or flight stress response, the parasympathetic, relaxation response. That's where all the systems of your body get the right nutrients and blood supply and oxygen to run at optimum levels, your immune system, your digestive system, your circulatory system. The vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic relaxation response. It's attached to your lungs. By breathing deeply, smoothly, gently into your belly, oxygenating those lungs, you stimulate the vagus nerve, therefore activate the parasympathetic relaxation response. How simple is this? This is really, really easy. And I go on and on about the breath because I know it's a cliche and obnoxious to tell somebody who's struggling with anxiety, who's, overwhelmed and worried to take a deep breath. That is the most obnoxious thing you could say to somebody, very cliched, but it's literally the best thing you can do for yourself. Imagine you're stressed, you're worried, you're getting out of control. Imagine breathing in a liter of oxygen into your system and what that's going to do for your nervous system to reset it. So the 5-minute reboot exercise, the first part is 3, 4, 5 slow, easy, gentle breaths, calming your nervous system, moving over into parasympathetic. The second part of this is, again, movement. You don't have to jump up and down. You don't have to run down the street. You can do simple little exercises called bilateral stimulation exercises. Now, the reason these are important is because when you're feeling that anxiety, you're feeling that panic, that fear, you're lighting up a part of the right side of the brain. Now, remember from school science class, energy cannot be created or destroyed. You just don't turn on that panic and anxiety automatically. It needs blood supply, it needs oxygen, it needs fuel, it needs nutrients. Where is it coming from? It's coming from these other parts of the brain. Mm-hmm. And so these other parts of the brain turn down. The volume turns down. All the blood supply gets sucked away and moves to that panic and that fear. So how do you undo it? will move it away back to those brains, light up these parts of the brain again. And a simple way of doing that is just little movement exercises. And here I got my little stress squeezy ball. And so what I'm going to do for people who can't see me, the listeners, I'm just going to switch off this squeezy ball from one hand to the other, from my right hand to my left hand, trading off right in front of me. If your sternum is a center point, I'm trading off. Left side of the brain is controlling the right side of the body. Right side of the brain is controlling the left side of the body. So when I'm switching hands and I'm moving my arms in this way, back and forth, all the way to forming like a T or a cross, I'm lighting up these parts of the brain. I need oxygen. I need blood supply. Where is it coming from? It's coming from that panic and that fear. And so that dissipates. If you've ever been, you remember back in school, you remember maybe a meeting recently, and somebody in the meeting was drumming on their knees, and they're just patting their knees back and forth. They're not hyper, they're not ADHD, they're nervous, and they're creating bilateral stimulation by drumming on their knees. Even just feeling the tapping on their knees is creating bilateral stimulation, because you're feeling that sensation, and that's creating some brain cells to fire in your head. They're nervous, so they're drumming on their knees. What we're going to do to create bilateral stimulation is, well, just walking down the street is bilateral stimulation. Left foot, left foot, right. That's why walking feels so good. And why I feel, especially when you're doing some sort of therapeutic talk therapy, or ranting to your friend or something, walking is so great, because as you're releasing that energy of the anger or the anxiety or the stress or the bad day or whatever, you're also creating that bilateral stimulation by left foot, left foot, by walking. Sitting while talking, while very useful and helpful, man, you could supersize that release and letting go by walking, taking a little stroll around the block or maybe somewhere in nature. But there's your tangent for you. What we're going to do, again, 3, 4 slow, gentle breaths. Then we're going to cross our arms and give ourselves a hug. And we're going to grip each shoulder. There's our bilateral stimulation by gripping onto our shoulders. But this does something else. This is healing, nurturing touch. Even though the hug you're giving to yourself, this is healing, nurturing touch. And you can just give yourself a hug or a squeeze or a bear hug, or do the havening technique, which is rubbing your hands from your wrists to your shoulders. This feels great. And if you're feeling great, that means you're changing your brain chemistry. You're creating that GABA, which is now eliminating the adrenaline and cortisol. And now you're creating the oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. You're also creating these neural peptides, these molecules of joy, happiness, and love. There's little molecules your brain creates when you feel angry, when you feel anxious, when you feel worried. The reason you can differentiate between those feeling states is because hundreds of millions of molecules are getting dumped into your bloodstream from your brain, looking for the cells with the right receptors to attach to that cell, give the message of anxiety, the message of fear, the message of joy, message of happiness. The reason you can feel that difference is because of those molecules. So these are literal molecules of fear, molecules of anxiety, molecules of anger, molecules of joy being dumped into your system. Well, by this hug, you're creating the molecules of love, joy, happiness, deep connection, as well as the oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine, those hormones being produced. And we're going to supersize this by thinking of somebody we want to give a hug to. We're going to start operating the visual parts of our brain. Now, this person can be a good friend, could be a pet, could be a dog, a cat. Maybe you saw a documentary about elephants and you fell in love with the baby elephant. It could be somebody who's no longer with us. It could be your grandmother, your grandfather, somebody you've never met before, Mother Teresa, Joan of Arc, somebody maybe you and I will never get to meet, Paul McCartney or Beyonce or somebody. It doesn't matter who it is, but somebody you feel an attachment to, so you can change literally the chemistry within your body and within your brain. Thinking of that person, pretending that you're hugging them, because your mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. That's why having a nightmare is so scary and so real, is because your mind thinks it's actually happening. You're deep asleep, and it could be something ridiculous, something crazy, something stupid, like a gigantic cheeseburger and his 2 hot dog friends are chasing down the street, throwing rocks at you. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It could be something super scary, like a war veteran having a PTSD dream about the war, even though it was 30 years ago. Deep asleep and even wide awake, your mind can't tell whether that's real or imagined. Its main job is to keep you safe and protected for survival. So it does that kind of shoot first, ask questions later. And in the middle of sleep, it'll turn on the adrenaline and the cortisol. And adrenaline, the hormone adrenaline, you've heard the crazy stories of grandmothers lifting cars off of babies. That's adrenaline doing that. It's now coursing through your body, the neural peptides of fear and anxiety. 300% more blood moving to the big muscles of your arms to fight, 300% more blood moving to big muscles of your legs to escape. You wake up with a scream because your subconscious wants you consciously aware of your surroundings, looking for danger. Your heart is racing, you're sweating to cool down your body. All because of cheeseburgers chasing you on the street. You literally changed your physiology through thought alone. So let's do that. We're not doing anything in this exercise that you're not doing already. We're just doing it on purpose. Your subconscious mind, your unconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, and will change your physiology to match what you're thinking and feeling. So let's do that. And we'll do this exercise. We don't, I think, need to do it 5, 6, 7 minutes, but let's just do it for a couple of minutes.
Mhm.
Again, if you're driving your car, just, concentrate on the road. If you're watching the kids, watch the kids. Doing anything where you need to focus or concentrate, do that and come back to this later. But if you're able to, let's do this exercise together. And a big part of this exercise, again, is the deep breath into your belly. So in through your nose, into your belly. And I know this is one of those issues as we get older. We want to look good. We want to look good at the wedding. We want to look good at the high school reunion. We suck it in. We want our pants to fit better. And so notice if your muscles just feel tight, and see if you can focus on releasing and letting go of those muscles and letting, even if your stomach hangs out a little bit, have some compassion for yourself, maybe some forgiveness, and allow your stomach to balloon up a little bit with air so you can get air into the bottom of your lungs. Those big abdominal breaths 3 or 4 times, even breathing in through your nose and exhaling out through your mouth like you're blowing out candles on a birthday cake. Closing of the eyes if it's safe for you to do so. And remember, the vagus nerve is attached to the eyes. So by closing your eyes, you're actually signaling your mind, signaling your brain that you're safe because there's no danger to look for. Deep, slow, easy, gentle breaths, closing your eyes if it's safe for you to do so, signaling your nervous system that it's time to turn off the stress response and turn on the parasympathetic relaxation response. When you're ready, cross your arms, give yourself a big hug. And this feels good. This is nurturing, loving, healing touch. This means something to your unconscious. This means something to your subconscious mind. It's now turning off the adrenaline and the cortisol if you're feeling stressed. It's now creating oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, the feel-good hormones, creating the neuropeptides, the molecules of joy, happiness, and love. And just take a moment to think of somebody you want to give a hug to while your body feels the hug. With your imagination, pretend that you're hugging a person you care for. Maybe it's somebody in your life today, even if they live across town, across the country, across the world. Maybe it's a dog, a cat, a pet of yours. Maybe it's somebody who's no longer with us that you deeply cared for, your grandmother, your grandfather. Or again, maybe somebody you've never met before, but inspires you so much. Somebody from history. Maybe even a fictional character. Why not? And as you're performing this technique, just notice how different it all looks and feels now. Maybe you're feeling lighter. Maybe you're feeling more at peace. There's a calm running through you now. Again, taking a deep breath in through your nose, exhaling out through your mouth. And when you're ready, you just return to being fully aware, fully alert. And if you like, shake it out. Shake your arms out, your shoulders out. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to reset yourself. 5 minutes. And what's fascinating about this technique is what it also does is it resets your reticular activating system. And that's a part of the brain. That's the radar of your brain. It's always looking for danger. This is that part of your brain. If you're fast asleep and you hear the baby crying at the end of the hallway, you wake up. You're fast asleep and you smell smoke, or you hear the back door opening at 4 a.m. You're going to wake up because your radar is always on. Maybe your vision's asleep, your sight is asleep, but the rest of the other four systems are working. That's why if you're too hot or too cold, you'll wake up. If you have to go to the bathroom, you wake up. This is that part of you, let's say you're driving down the street, you have the green light, but out of your peripheral vision, you see a car going towards the red, so you slam on the brakes. That's your reticular activating system. There's millions of bits of information coming at you, signs and lights and people and radios on, whatever. All this information coming at you, but you noticed one thing, that car going way too fast towards a red light, so you slammed on the brakes. That's your reticular activating system. The secondary task of the reticular activating system is to solve problems, find solutions, and create answers. This is that part of your mind when you're thinking about buying a new car, and you're, at least here in America, you're thinking about maybe buying a Toyota Prius. Now you start seeing Toyota Priuses everywhere. Well, they were there yesterday and the day before and last year and 10 years ago, but you didn't notice them. But now they're in every parking lot. They're driving down the street. Your neighbor has, we didn't notice that before. That's because we're being inundated with about 11 million bits of information per second through our 5 senses, what we hear, see, taste, touch, and smell. 11 million bits. The lights in the room, whether it's too dark or too dim, the sounds. Maybe if you just take a quick moment and listen, do you hear anything? A car going by, a motorcycle, maybe a plane overhead, maybe the air conditioning is on or the heater is on. You didn't notice that until you put your awareness on it. We filter out a lot of information because we're only cognizant of 50 bits of that 11 million. So we have to filter out a lot of stuff. So we filter out the Priuses until we focus our minds on the solution to the new car. It gets great gas mileage. Let's get a Prius. Until you think, oh, but I like being outdoors. I like going camping. I like being out in nature. I like hiking. Maybe we should get a 4-wheel drive car. Maybe we should get a Jeep. Now you refocused your reticular activating system to look at nothing but Jeeps. And they're everywhere. You didn't notice that before until you focused your attention on. And maybe you've had this experience before, that experience of when your day goes from bad to worse. That's your reticular activating system focusing on nothing but problems, but eliminating and filtering out all the good stuff. 11 million bits of information. Yeah, there's lots of stuff to be joyful about and grateful about and happy about and thankful for, but that's not what you're focused on. You're not focused on Priuses, you're focused on Jeeps. You're focused on problems. You're going to ignore all the good stuff in that 50 bits of information you're cognizant of. So what if you started your day with this 5-minute reboot exercise and you took 5 minutes, 6 minutes to breathe deeply, hug yourself, flood your system with the hormones of oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, the neuropeptides, the molecules of joy, happiness, and love. Now, aren't you setting your reticular activating system to find yourself more things to be joyful about, to be happy about? And this is called the 5-minute reboot exercise, not take 5 minutes right now during your show and everything's rainbows and unicorns for the rest of your life. Do it again and again and again. Reset yourself, reboot yourself. Do it over and over and over again. The Dalai Lama still meditates every day. Yo-Yo Ma still practices a cello every day. Tony Robbins, after 40 years of personal growth and personal development techniques and exercises that he uses himself, is still doing those same exercises and techniques. So practice over and over again. Like I said a little bit, there's a relentlessness to this work. And whether you're specifically just dealing with a specific fear or anxiety in your life that's going on right now, or maybe it's just a general malaise or depression or anxiety that really you can't, seem to put a finger on the root. It's just you don't feel great. What if you were to practice changing your chemistry with a simple little exercise that will hack your system? It'll hack your brain chemistry. It'll hack your nervous system. 5-6 minutes is all it takes. Imagine doing this 3 times a day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm talking about 15 minutes out of your 24 hours. That's not a lot of time,
Oh.
to like literally change how you feel within your body, mind. Imagine doing this for a week. And if you were able to do that exercise right then, just for 2 or 3 minutes, I'm guessing, a lot of people, when they do this, they say there's a lightness, there's a peace, there's an ease, there's a calm. Imagine doing this once, twice, 3 times a day for a week and how you're going to feel. And again, we're talking about 5 minutes. And so this stuff, while maybe it's not the hardest thing in the world, it is powerful beyond belief. You can take control of your nervous system. You can take control of your brain chemistry. You just got to do it. And that's a big part of, I think, what a lot of what you talk about in other episodes with other guests, especially around addiction issues. And whether it's addiction to alcohol, addiction to religion, like maybe I was dealing with, addiction to too many screens, addiction, to hiding, and not putting yourself out there. What if you took some time to just change how you feel about yourself within your own body, your own skin, and hack your very system? And that exercise will do it for you. And it's you can teach your friends how to do this afternoon. It's not difficult. So imagine teaching your kids how to do that. Imagine teaching your kids. If you got a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, I don't know if the teenagers are going to want to do that exercise, but imagine if you have a kid and giving them the gift of being able to take control of their own nervous systems when they're feeling upset, instead of running to mom or dad if they're not around, or they're not a very resourceful or resilient kind of parent, or struggling with their own problems. Imagine giving a child the ability to regulate their own nervous system just with a simple little exercise that moves the body, that breathes in deeply and imagines hugging somebody you care for. The stuff isn't hard. It's actually really, really easy, but you got to do it. And again, there's a relentlessness to just doing it. Again, look at the Dalai Lama. The man still meditates. So I take my cues from him.
I think this is such a beautiful take on things.
Yeah.
I have to say I didn't want to open my eyes. I was so caught in that moment, and it felt so physically good to hug, in this case, my son, who is in fact sitting on the other side of the world, in the United States, and to just give him that bear hug. And equally receiving that bear hug there, I didn't want to let go. This was a very, very powerful insight in that thing. And immediately I felt that grin coming onto my face. So my state changed within probably 15 seconds. Suddenly there was literally this flood of oxytocin washing over me. This was beautiful and powerful.
And powerful. And I think, though, sometimes maybe we get addicted to that not feeling good. And we just get it into our heads, well, this is the way it's supposed to feel. And look at the world. The world's on fire. How am I allowed to feel good? How am I allowed to feel happy?
Yeah.
But you're allowed. And imagine if we create an army of happy, joyful, peaceful people. Wouldn't that be a difference the world is looking for? Is it Buckminster Fuller said some time ago, don't fight against what's happening in the world. Find a new way and be that change by doing things differently. I'm totally butchering that. I'm paraphrasing, but find a different way. Instead of fighting the status quo and what is happening in the world, find a different way and make the old way obsolete. And start with yourself. I mean, that's really what you have control over, is your own physiology, your own thinking state. And you said within 15 seconds, 30 seconds, you can break your state. You can break that trend. And a big part of, I think, at least in my own life and some of the people I've worked with, is what you practice, you get better at. We know this from practicing the piano or practicing the guitar or practicing martial arts or a foreign language or riding a bicycle or something like that. The more you practice something, the better you get at it. Even watching a little kid learning to walk, the more you practice, the better you get at it. But what if you're practicing anxiety? What if you're practicing depression? What if you're practicing fear or anger? Are you literally not wiring that into your brain? And so it becomes that automatic habit. You don't have to think about tying your shoes. You don't have to think about walking across the room to get a glass of water. You don't have to think about riding a bike or driving in a car, maybe. You just do it. But what if you've practiced so much that anxiety or depression uh, becomes automatic, like tying your shoes? And then you need those quick self-soothing techniques, be it maybe something unresourceful or not very resilient, like alcohol or pills or too much screen time or something. So, what if you had these little exercises where you can change state, whether it's just moving your body and whether it's doing something like that Qigong shake, like I showed before, maybe doing some dance moves or some jumping jacks or taking a walk around the block or taking a break at work and walking around where you can walk around, let alone out in nature, or doing that 5 minute reboot exercise and reset your system and do it over and over and over and over again. You know, the reason a lot of people struggle, I think, in my humble opinion, is again, you're practicing it over and over again. You're practicing that depression. You're practicing that anxiety, maybe for months, if not potentially years, if not maybe decades. And so it's time to practice something else. The old ways aren't working. So if you can have the awareness of where you're at in terms of how you're feeling in your body, maybe even rated on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being the most peaceful, happy, joyful ever you felt, 10 being the most anxious, depressed, angry, in pain you've ever felt. Where are you on that scale? Maybe you're a 4 or a 5, or maybe it's a really bad day and you're an 8 or a 9. Okay, you know what you're dealing with. Well, here's at least 2 exercises you can do. Maybe you put them together some way. But here are 2 exercises where you can start lowering that. Now, of course, it's great if you can notice it and get it when it's a 2 or a 3. Of course, then it's going to dissipate really quickly. But if you find yourself at an 8 or a 9 or a 10, okay, here's 2 really simple, cool exercises you can do to change your state and start feeling better. And the more you practice that, the more you start creating that wiring within your brain to do it faster and quicker and more automatically.
Mm.
You know? Yeah.
It's beautiful. Craig, you're an amazing man. I mean, this was a beautiful, beautiful exercise I had not tried before. And the power of the hug was overwhelming. It was beautiful. This is not the last time I practiced that. I'm quite addicted to that. Oh, yes. And it feels so weird, especially for us men, manly men who are strong. Bullshit. In reality, this is the nicest thing that we can show each other compassion, and more importantly, to us self-compassion, to actually accept that we don't have to be strong all the time, but that we can actually model to ourselves that it is okay to just be here and have that soothing and calming influence, changing our state, changing us deep inside. And that's beautiful. And suddenly there is a serenity coming over you that maybe you have not felt before. And a peace is washing over you that now calms things down. And you know what? Suddenly your brain comes up with really good ideas, which might just be the solutions to your problems, the ways out of some of the darkness, some of the challenges that you are facing now. But you need to calm the ego and need to calm all the rubbish up there down. And your exercise is one of the many that can help us so much. Greg, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Um,
you're welcome.
Greg, if people want to know more about you, where can they find you? Where can they go?
Uh, Probably the two best places. I do a little bit of social media. I'm not that great at it, or not great at it, but I guess I don't spend that much time at it. But the two best places is, as you mentioned before at the beginning, I'm a hypnotherapist. I live in Arizona, in America, and the name of my hypnotherapy practice is Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona, but because of Zoom, now I can work with people around the world. And so Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy in Flagstaff, Arizona is the way to find me there. I also have this new course out called Ace Any Test about test anxiety. If you or anyone you know struggles with anxiety around tests or exams or auditions or job interviews or public speaking, you can find me at aceanytest.com. And probably the best way is just email, which is craig@aceanytest.com is the best way to get in touch with me.
Brilliant. Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast because all of Craig's details are down there. So just click them, check him out, and get in touch and see if you cannot create a better version of yourselves by dealing with old trauma and therefore maybe, calming some of the influences from the past down, but more importantly, uh, learning new techniques and learning new ways, expanding your horizons, going out there and literally by practice becoming a new version of yourself that maybe
Yeah.
suits you better to become more resilient and to become more productive, become the version that you deserve to be and inspire to be, but maybe where your imposter syndrome has been holding you back and where maybe wrong core beliefs have been holding you back. So
Yeah.
come along for the journey. This is amazing, this journey. Let it be away from addiction to sobriety. Let it be away from mental health challenges towards a easier life and a happier life. Or may it just be from a status quo to the abundance of possibilities that there are out there once you are opening yourself up to the universe, to God, to whoever you believe in, and let those influences come in and you turn into this powerhouse of beauty it's wonderful. Let it happen. Come along for the ride, guys. Great.
Yeah.
You're an amazing man. Thank you so much. This
Oh,
was a
thank you,
great
Stefan.
interview today. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, I me too. And I just you inspired me at the end there with just that one word, you deserve. And it's true. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live your best life. You deserve to live a good life. And you deserve to have compassion, not only towards your family and your friends and other people in the world, but towards yourself and gratitude for yourself. And sometimes I forget that myself, and that's I study this, I read about it, I write about it, I help other people about it, and sometimes you forget yourself to have compassion towards yourself and forgiveness towards yourself, but you deserve to have it. And
Exactly.
so I'm going to spend the rest of my day thinking about that, having compassion
Yes.
towards myself.
And that is again the power that we have by connecting, by bringing like-minded people together. Craig, before today we have never met, yet we have
Yeah,
established a bond of understanding. We've established a bond of, I would say, friendship that was never there, because we both dared to step outside of our comfort zone to put us into the limelight. We showed up for ourselves here by creating this interview, and we both have grown. We both
yeah,
are now different people than we started an hour ago. And this is powerful. This is beautiful. Here we are. So
yeah,
I think we both have a long way to go. And
yeah,
but we've also come a long way. So it just shows that by taking intentional steps every day, like us showing up here, there is a power behind that that will propel you forward and drive you onto a beautiful trajectory if you just choose to do so. And I invite all of you out there, come along for the ride, because the ride is exhilarating and intoxicating, better than any drug or any kind of coping mechanism you have ever tried. I can assure you that. Oh, wow. Cool. Craig, thank you so much for coming onto my show.
You're welcome, Steph. I appreciate the invitation. New Zealand's on the short list of countries to go visit. So when we come, I'm going to find you and I'm going to take you out to lunch and we're going to have a fun afternoon.
Fantastic. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with intention. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.